Good morning, afternoon, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, welcome. Today I am heading to a very dug up and picked over dump site that I have filmed at several times before. This time I'll be meeting up with James of the YouTube channel Find and Create, and there is a portion of the dump site that I didn't know existed before a few weeks ago. When I was exploring the other side of the river, I saw things across the water glinting in the sunlight, poking out of where the river seems to have cut into a small, probably man-made hillside. It is not the ideal time to visit, filming in early summer 2021. There will be a lot of vegetation getting in the way of finding things on the bit that I haven't yet explored. Up here though, where it is very dug over, there won't be as much plant cover. There usually is at least a few things to find, and it is a beautiful day for it. James hasn't arrived yet, so I'll just wander and have a look about while I wait. That brick structure is an amazing survivor, fallen down and over, and still holding shape. The visits here do tend to blur together in my head, but one time, might have been the first time I came here, there was a colony of bees down there, almost stood on them. I will be careful not to stand on them this time, if they're still there. First intact bottle, a nice aqua blue colour, slightly unusually narrow neck for such a wide body, and the residue of whatever it contained. It's a little bit too scratched up and plain to overcome the strict limits I have to apply to myself now. Take fewer bottles, and they have to be special. As if I'll be able to stick to that. It's a maybe, if James doesn't want it. I've got my little pinpointer with me today. I wanted to pass it over this loose banking, see if there is anything other than galvanized steel to find. Copper, brass, bronze, silver, gold. Platinum, palladium, tantalum, even nickel or tin would be good to find. Brass, a little clip. It doesn't make for good footage, this side to side and up and down waving, so I'll film it all and cut most of it out. Quite a recognisable shape. Part of a handle from a bucket or a large cooking pot. I do occasionally take pieces of iron and steel, but they have to be either interesting or potentially useful. Little Japanese style vase, covered in Japanese style artwork. Can't make out much. I do really like Japanese style things. But broken top and broken bottom, is it a bit too broken for me? Does it have a maker's mark? No. So, it's a maybe not. I'll think about it. James has arrived, and I do find it interesting seeing how other YouTubers work, so...
Hi everyone, and welcome to another Find and Create. This is actually my last Find and Create in England, in Yorkshire. I'm going back to Holland actually tomorrow morning, so but I've got a very special one now, so I've got a really cool guest with me. This is Tom Burley. He's actually just over there. But obviously in his style he doesn't want to be on camera, but you'll hear his voice and I'm sure you might see a glimpse of his body.
Plastic. Very pretty, not in itself so much as what it lets through. I've always had a fondness for these and the light effect they create. And I should probably explain, I don't really film with people. In fact, I'm really quite bad at meetups. I instinctively hide from cameras being pointed in my general direction. a small piece of pipe stem, and it's for one piece with writing on. Burns, and on the other side, Ant, I think, so missing a letter or more, but might be enough to find out who made it. So, meetups. I do obviously do them sometimes, and I enjoy the social aspect of them. I lose track of the number of times I filmed in the near vicinity of my friends Caroline and Phil of Let's Go with the Johnsons. I filmed near James before too, and near Mudlarking with Kitten Caboodlers, Northern Mudlarks and Nicola White. I did actually try to share footage with Nicola, but I'm pretty rubbish at it, and all in all I think I must be one of the absolute worst YouTubing mudlarkers to meet up with. It's a bit of a disability really, being so absolutely dead set against being filmed. Not really a disability, that's the wrong word, but a small facet of what could be classed as one, deep, unrelenting introversion. Still, I make do and still manage to make videos and get to meet some very nice people, sometimes having a positive impact on their channels by filming them and mentioning them. So please do go check out James's channel, Find and Create. He doesn't put out videos all that often, but what he does put out is interesting and creative. A concretion of rust and ashes, stones and soil surrounding a horseshoe. Probably the biggest horseshoe I've ever found. Not sure if it's quite as big as would fit a Shire horse, but maybe, and if so, the horse that wore this may well have been employed pulling barges along the nearby canal. Wool. I thought wool rotted down in dump conditions. Maybe the dye is acting like a preservative. Or perhaps a bottle digger brought their knitting along with them to work on while someone else was digging. I do think that I'd enjoy knitting if I took the time to learn. I could see what looked like a loop of rusty metal sticking out of the stream bed. I'm holding it by that loop. It is undoubtedly some very rusty metal. I'm unsure if it can be cleaned up much, might well be no viable metal beneath the rust, but I'm pretty sure that it was once a gun. A single-barreled shotgun is my guess, and its history is a mystery. A farmer's gun or a criminal's, or possibly both. Candlestick. Not really to my taste. I'll leave it for whoever might find it next. A little bit of brass. I think it's part of a popper or press stud button. Don't think there'll be any maker's mark hiding beneath the verdigris, but I'll take it, and the gun. Try to clean them both up with electrolysis. Interesting glass. Not sure what it's from. Maybe a bottle with the top broken off. Think I'll leave it. I have enough broken bottles for now. James has already searched this hillside, but we have different tastes in finds, so I will search it too. Brass, top of an old paraffin lamp. They're not rare, and this one is not in good condition, so milk pile I think. It's not as stark looking as when I first saw it. Looked positively lunar then, not much ground level plant life. It is still falling down towards and into the river. Whenever it rains, another small piece of the dump gets washed down and away. So along the water's edge there will probably be things to find. It is quite high though, the river level today, so there might not be much but mud and water to stand on. Top of a flagon, Hollows and Fentiman Botanical Brewers. Don't know where the Hollows came from or went, because as far as I know the company has been Fentiman's ever since it was founded by Thomas Fentiman in 1905. Still going strong and still has a small Hollows and Fentiman product range. Lead pipe. I know it's not actually next to the water, but it is next to the edge of the slope down to the water, so I'll take it and head down to the water to rinse off a hand that has handled lead. I do like the idea of kayaking down this river. There are otters and kingfishers and deer and fish, lots more birds. Oh, and dump sites next to it, at least 4 that I know of in a 10-mile stretch. Not sure how paddling upstream would be, there's quite a current. Back out of reveries and daydreaming to the question of what that thing is. Okay, got it. It is metal, mostly steel I think. Certainly looks like rusty steel. It's fairly heavy, so has more metal inside. I think I know what it might be. The only one I've seen was in a lot better condition than this, and this is missing some bits. If I'm right, it would have had a probably brass bowl at the top surrounding this middle central drive shaft, I guess, and a handle that attached to the drive shaft. Coffee beans would have been poured into the bowl, through the hole, ground up, and there should be a drawer at the front, but it's hiding well beneath the corrosion, if it's there. Vintage coffee grinder, no idea of the date of it, and I don't think I'll take it. More metal in the water. Could possibly be a good place to magnet fish. This, no idea, reminiscent of 2 things, an animal trap and a medieval chastity belt, neither of which make it appealing to me. This is more my taste, some humble copper wire. Steel bar tubing, more rust than steel now. Don't know how I missed that. A milk glass pot, probably pond screen, quite common. Certainly something I have already, and more than enough. I shall leave it. Looks like a marble. Ah, curses, fooled. It's a little handle off of something ceramic. Does look quite like a marble, and I don't know what I'll do with it, but I do feel inclined to take it. Sorry that was a bit jerky. I kept thinking the branch was right in front of the lens, in danger of scratching it. I do like the sunlight and the shade playing together so nicely in the water. And I am supposed to be picking up any flat blue and white that I find for James and his quite epic projects, as long as they're pretty much flat, have bits of pattern on them in the limited palette of blue and white. Teal and white and curved, but I quite like it. It's a weird time, social distancing. Delta variants just arrived here in a big way. Don't know what variant will be on by the time I get this video out, but for this outing we're exchanging our finds from a distance, and I'm happy to be given a chunk of brass in the form of an old Victorian gas pipe corner piece, and sort of swap parts of a dump that we've been searching. That looks like... yes, don't think it's a ginger beer bottle. Same size and shape as one with the top broken off, but very different material. I think this was a wet cell battery circa 1900, plus or minus 10 years. Cobalt blue glass, a poison bottle smashed to smithereens, and it says not. I would quite like to have ideas, craft ideas for using these small pieces. First the idea though, then I'll start collecting them. Little circular brass thing. Ah, I think it's a watch. It's got a winder, bits of where a strap held it, maybe a clock face beneath the mud and grit. I hope so. I'm certainly going to take it and try to clean it as carefully as I can. It is almost certainly not restorable, but I'm still quite happy to find it. Bit by bit we are searching our way through this bit of a dump site that we have both explored before, and though I know of at least 9 other mudlarkers who have come here since I first came here in September 2019, several of them have been able to make videos because, however picked over it is, there's still things to find. That bottle looks interesting. I can already see that the top is broken off, but The rest of it seems to be in okay condition, and I can immediately imagine using this in a model of a lighthouse. Perhaps a diorama of rough seas, a lighthouse, and a ship floundering on the rocks regardless. Maybe not anytime soon. The scale would mean that the sea would have to be a lot of epoxy resin, and that's expensive, but I will take it for this possible future project. James brought me another gift. It's a nice heavy piece of brass pipe. In a few areas I am a man of simple tastes, and this is one of them. I am very happy to be given copper and brass. Just to clarify, no, that's not a request for people to send me gifts of copper and brass. No, that would be quite environmentally unfriendly. Recycle it, or save it up, or reuse it locally. And I really do have enough for the time being. Only lit up my forge once so far, and the boxes of copper and brass things are very nearly full. A handle of cutlery, and I'm guessing a teaspoon. It is, and it looks as though it's got some decoration embossed on the handle. A nice find. Any experienced bottle diggers watching? This area looks a lot flatter. Does that mean that it's not likely to have been dug? And if not, why not? A.S.M.R of Baildon. Fairly local, about 5 or 6 miles away. 30s or earlier, I think, from the glass used. I'm kind of meandering aimlessly in the vague direction of a road now, I think, because last time I did, I found a big loose coil of copper wire that someone several years ago had chucked over the wall. I used that wire, which was bright and shiny inside, in a fair few craft projects. Of course, it's too much to hope that I'll find similar again, but my subconscious didn't think such doubtful thoughts when it started guiding me this way. This looks interesting, like maybe a vintage fire extinguisher. The sticks here make terrible levers. Levers in American English. It's not really what I thought it might be. It's vintage all right, but not something I want. I think it was a grease gun. It's been about 20 minutes since I've seen James, and by a process of eliminating all the places I've seen him and assuming he hasn't already headed towards the unexplored bit, he should be down here somewhere. There he is. I'll just hang around here until he's finished filming. While I was talking to James, I spotted this, copper wire. And this, which didn't look like much, thought it part of an egg cup until I turned it around like this. Would have been a nice doll, and might be something again one day. Westminster Abbey, a place I wish I'd visited when I lived in London. Last resting place of Sir Isaac Newton, several of the kings and queens of England, prime ministers, many great writers and artists and scientists, including fairly recent arrival Stephen Hawking. Would be an amazing place to haunt if the other residents were also of a mind to haunt those hallowed buildings. An awesome little find. I can never find enough of these at home. After cleaning, it will go on the washing line in the garden. Okay, we're on our way, past the gas pipe and on around the corner of the river. It's not ideal distancing, but every time I see this structure, I want to swing across the river using it like it's monkey bars. I used to love monkey bars, even wanted to weld together some of my own on the hillside behind the family house. Maybe one day I'll have a garden with space enough for that. Lime tree, I think. They really are magnificent trees. There's a whole row of them alongside a path on the other side of the river. I once thought that they might be elm trees. But mature elm trees are exceedingly rare in the UK these days, and I haven't seen the leaves up close to ID them. For that, I think lime trees is the more likely ID. Starting to see fragments of pottery and glass, and it all strongly suggests that this is, as suspected, a further and slightly separated part of a dump site. I suspect the dump area covers much of what we can see here, which is currently covered by nettles, and the bit that I saw from the other side of the river is about 50 metres downstream, so it goes at least that far. Can't go further, beyond it is a tight curve in the river. Big slab of verdigris which might at its heart still be a brass thing, and I don't know what the brass was. Maybe a clock? Maybe not. I will take it and clean it up some and hopefully find out. We're going on a bottle hunt, going to find some old ones. What a beautiful day. We're not scared. Uh-oh, a nettle patch, a tall, stingy nettle patch. Can't go over it. Can't go under it. Oh no, we've got to go through it. Actually, I don't really mind the nettles that much, and I suspect I'm going to be wading through the tall ones before too long looking for stuff. At the moment I suspect following the narrow trails will lead to bottle digger holes, because bottle diggers use animal trails too when there's nettles. Might have even created some of them. This branch of the trail looks quite defined, and the nettles are taller. Nettles love ash, and ash often comes with old discarded bottles. I see a void in the nettles. That might be what I'm looking for. Yes, a bottle digger tailings pile. What here of interest to me? A chunk of newspaper. I will take a look inside. A broken mirror, which looks like it has a brass surround. I guess, based on the available evidence, that this might have been a rear-view mirror for a car. I'll take it, and the broken glass, which can go in for recycling. And the newspaper, opened at a random page, reveals... Ha! A glowing testimonial for a health product called bile beans. That I would guess was probably either a quack medicine or something mildly beneficial to health but vastly overhyped. And on another random page there's what looks like a man wearing a cloche-style hat. A strong look. Doesn't seem like it's going to open, I'm just damaging it now. The sole of a shoe, and it has worn right through. I have often thought about how possible it would be to harvest the brass tacks from these. Haven't tried it yet, but I might take it and give it a go. It's never going to be as easy though as just picking up sheet copper off the ground. Little milk glass pot, half free like it already. Another little spoil pile with nothing that I can see of interest. One thing I'm really not seeing much of is the actual bottle digger holes. I know sometimes they're filled in again, but I guess they're much more likely just hidden by the nettles today. The spoil piles do look old here, covered in moss and sprouting grass, which makes the surviving newspaper bit I found quite amazing. Can't imagine it would survive like that on my lawn for a few weeks, if I had a lawn, let alone for probable years since the digging happened here. Nice simple bottle. I like the shape, and I think, though I can't see much of it, I'll like the colour too when I've cleaned it up. I think it's the only thing on this pile that I want. On to the next one. That might be something I like. A Melon's baby food jar. I like the shape of these. They look pretty good with LEDs in when it's dark, and they're just about large enough for a very small terrarium. But I have several already that I haven't used. That looks like a heartbreaker. Don't think I've ever seen a bottle like this would have been. Almost spherical, cobalt blue, with lumpy bits that I think was either an embossed picture, it is a bit indistinct, or melting. Might have been a fire extinguisher grenade. Some brass that is coating an iron rod. These are not particularly worthwhile for brass recovery, and a tiny bit of copper wire. I made my way back to the path beside the river. I think James is still happily exploring the nettle paddock, and he is more tenacious than I am, lingering in a few small areas, and gently pushing aside all of the nettles to see what sits amongst them. I do a little bit of that too, but I'm more interested in scoping out the shape and size of this site, and I want to find the bit of exposed soil I saw from across the river. Looking to see if there's a likely looking root system on the other end of that tree. Good for finding bottles and seeing some of what bottle diggers might never have dug. Couldn't see one, but there are a lot of nettles in the way. That looks like it might be bottle diggings up there. A little amphitheatre shape, indistinct beneath the plant life. Think I'll have to come again to this site in late autumn, early spring. Oh wow, and oh dear, didn't see it in time, wasn't pointing the camera in the right direction, wrong camera for it. A kingfisher just flashed its way across this part of the river. I'm pretty sure that this is the cut that the river made that I saw from the other side, and that it's longer than currently visible. Right, let's see what I can find. Aha, in 3 different parts of the dump site today I found one of these brass clips. Partial piece of a nice green poison bottle, circa 1920s to 40s I think. I do love this colour of glass, and the words are all intact, not to be taken, so I'll take it and give it over to a stained glass artist friend, if he wants it, that is. It's a little difficult to see what's here, there's tree flowers covering a lot, but base of a little bottle. Screw top and plain, and not one that I'd usually take, but I like that it's still got its early plastic cap, and I am weak-willed sometimes. I was supposed to not be taking many bottles. How about this one? A much smaller test of my willpower since I don't actually like it. That's a big piece of lead pipe that I'll take out of here on my way out, and a bottle with embossed flowers and fine pattern. Don't know if you can see that, but it's quite nice. I think I'll take it and clean it up and put lights in it. I am quite unimaginative where bottles are concerned. A ubiquitous paste pot, and under this metal sheet, you'll have to take my word for it, I don't want to disturb it again, there is a large toad. And looking up I can see the line that the river came to. I do not think that all of the things down here were washed out by the river though. I think there is a deliberate man-made bank between the river and the dump site, and what's down here was piled on the edge by bottle diggers. We'll have to climb up there and see what can be found. But down here first. Fork. I think most of the cutlery I find is made of cupro nickel. I'd like to learn which processes can be used to separate the 70 to 75% copper from the 25% nickel, and sometimes 5% manganese. I think the nickel currently has the highest monetary value of those, then the manganese, copper a distant third. But copper, I do love copper, and what can be done with it. Speaking of which, there's some right there, hanging out in the dead root system that's hanging down. That blue looks interesting. Not exactly the most stable place to stand, a loose sandy bank. It's a leg, but what of? I thought at first it might be Babe, the big blue ox, Paul Bunyan's companion, but it is not an ox leg, it looks more like a big cat to me, so not related to any mythology I know of. I guess sometimes people just want to make a model of a big blue cat, and why not? A wheel. I think I kind of recognise as being the same as one from the bottom of a strange mirror-tiled coffee table that my parents had, which I jumped off when I was 2, breaking my leg. A chunk of brass, a weight for kitchen scales, 2 ounces maybe. And if you're wondering, I remember the table, not the breaking of my leg. I do remember the being in traction and my granddad visiting, bringing satsumas, and having nightmares for years after of being covered in baby slugs, because I heard a word a lot in hospital. I definitely remember hearing someone tell one of my relatives that I was being given a lot of drugs, and that's what I thought little baby slugs were called. No idea. Back in the nettles, and they could not evade my camera lens forever, though it has found a place of shade where its brilliant iridescent colours are muted. The bodies of damselflies are easily a match for the beauty of dragonflies' bodies, but their wings aren't quite as pretty, according to my limited human taste. Another damselfly, flying away. I'm not going to chase for a better photo. The ground here is very uneven and I can't see where I'm putting my feet. I don't think I've been on this mound or seen the other side. For any minds that are wondering, I am not immune to nettle stings. I can just suppress the feeling of their stings quite well. With this many stings, my skin will be tingling for days after, but I've never had any severe reactions and my skin deals with the initial rash very quickly. Some people do deliberately sting themselves with nettles. It's quite a potent anti-inflammatory and can help with arthritis. Little sauce bottle. So this ridge may well be dumpsite. Interesting. I think I can see a pathway. think I've been over this spoil pile before. Oh, hello, little fuzzy butt. Bye then, nice to see you. And I can see a lesser spotted James. Back at the far end of the river cut, I've just found this brass recessed drawer handle. It's not much, but I'll take it. There's also a bit of copper wire and a big piece of blue and white plate that I'm going to give to James, who is currently around the other side of this mound, filming where I've filmed and finding all the things that I missed. I've put all the lead in my bag, so now I will rinse off my hand. Oh wow, wrong camera, another kingfisher. I'm pointing but the camera won't really be seeing, but to my eyes it is wonderful. I'm going to clamber up and over the mound and back round to meet up with James, carrying my bags with a fair weight of lead in one of them, so it might not be the most graceful clamber, but I don't want to have to come back to get them. I'm getting tired. First stop is for something I do get bored of saying, copper wire. Bored of saying copper wire, but I do still like finding it. That looks like some blue and white. It is. I don't think it's flat enough though for James's project. Something else blue. I think it's dried up old paint. I do like amber glass, but I can't think of anything I'd do with this. This, I think, is the most like a bottle digger hole that I've seen on this portion of the site. Looks like whoever dug it chucked a few bottles under this tree. So after shrugging off my rucksack, I'm going to get under there and see. Sauce bottle, medicine bottle, dietary supplement jar, lid off a teapot. Nothing much really that's for me. I do, however, like the jungle feel of the adventure today. I wonder if, when the workmen were putting in this overhead wire, they picked up any nice bottles. Might not seem like it, what with us being very careful and keeping our distances from each other, but it's been very nice to see James and Larkin the same site at the same time as him again. And it's been a beautiful day, makes me want to boat here, magnet fish here, dig here, though not so much when the nettles are like today. As James moves around to the next bit, I'll see what I can find of what both he and I have missed here. A few little bottles. Why not? My willpower is obviously weakened by nettle stings. Some unusual glass, iridescent with a bunch of grapes on the top side. I think I prefer the geometric pattern on the back. Don't often see wooden screw-in bottle stoppers. Might just be a cork rammed in, I suppose. And just up here, a clay marble? Ha, no, not a clay marble, a glass one. Can't see much beneath the mud, but there's a hint of green and white, and hopefully it'll clean up well and be gorgeous. I think this will likely be my last find today, and I think I will come back here sometime. I like this place. A roundup time. I still haven't been back there, and it's now almost a year since I went there and met up for a lark with James. Things have changed quite a lot in that time, but I'm still quite careful, still trying to avoid getting COVID, while a lot of the people I know are getting it. That said, I met up with James again for a lark about 2 weeks ago now, and we were much more comfortable and relaxed while still managing to be quite careful. I do think we looked fairly uncomfortable with the whole social distancing thing in this one. It was a very strange time. Anyway, strange has become the new normal, and about 2 weeks ago we went wading together in the river by the big bottle dump with clear-bottomed buckets and waders, and it was a lot of fun. And that reminded me that I still hadn't put this video together, so it leapt up the queue, even past a few that were filmed before this one, and here it is. I hope the result is an enjoyable video, and I hope too that the one I shot a few weeks ago doesn't take me anywhere near a year to get around to. That site continues to defy expectation. It really does look played out and picked over, but I know of several people who still go there quite often and still find little treasures. I found a few little treasures myself too. I was undecided when I found this Japanese pot, broken as it is, with no maker's mark, as if those things are really important. But the breaks, the missing bits, are a part of its history, and though it was probably made in quantity, with many near identical ones out there, it was painted by hand. The scene is a little hard to decipher, but one of the characters portrayed has a bird sitting on his outstretched arm, a raptor bird I think, so I like it, and I've had it on a shelf on display for much of the last year. It's going back there after filming this roundup. The horseshoe I found, I've put it next to another one for scale. I'm still not sure if it's actually big enough to be from a Shire horse, which is a breed that has been around since the mid-18th century, bred to be big and strong and capable of pulling massive weights. They were used to pull canal barges that carried the coal that fed the fires of the Industrial Revolution. They dragged massive artillery weapons across bomb-cratered and muddy fields in the First and Second World Wars, and when they were no longer needed, they almost went extinct. Or rather, since they were the result of selective breeding anyway, the characteristics that made up the Shire horse were no longer something that humans strove to encourage. There is still a small population of them, the biggest, strongest, and possibly the gentlest horses ever. The newspaper, with its glowing recommendation for something called bile beans, I wasn't surprised to learn that the company, the Bile Bean Manufacturing Company, founded in Leeds in 1899, was indeed basing a lot of its marketing on lies. Their founding story was an account of an Australian chemist, one Charles Ford, who didn't actually exist, but who apparently studied and based the bile bean recipe on a vegetable previously only known to Australian Aboriginals. Turns out that all of the ingredients were easily accessible in UK pharmacies at the time, and none of them were exclusive to Australia. The company lost a court case in 1905 when they tried to get an injunction against a Scottish chemist using the name bile beans for one of his products. The judge decided against them because he considered their business to be founded on and conducted by fraud. And somehow that wasn't the end of the Bile Bean Manufacturing Company. The product was still made all the way to 1980. They might be gone, but the snake oil industry of overhyped supplements still very much thrives. I tried a few methods for cleaning the remains of this gun, and now it is still very rusty and in 3 pieces. There is a very small amount of viable metal still in there, but it is held together by the rust. So I'm not going to keep it, might throw it into a metal skip at the recycling centre. I had much better luck cleaning the copper things. Well, the 3 things that I attempted to clean. I thought the weight for a kitchen weighing scales was brass when I found it, because pretty much every such weight I've ever seen has either been cast iron or brass. I was surprised when it came up copper. I was surprised by the spoon too, which also turned out to be copper, with some nice decoration on the handle. Copper isn't the usual material for cutlery. It is used. I had to Google that to confirm it, but I don't think I've found pure copper cutlery before. Admittedly, I haven't cleaned the corrosion off most of the cutlery I've found, so maybe I have. The watch cleaned up well to a point. I could not get through the remaining rock-hard concretion right on the part of the clock face that might have had a brand name on it, not without destroying the clock face. I can clean it no further with the tools that I have, but it was kind of fun trying. The bottles I took, I think I'll only really be keeping 2. This one because I really like simple, nice colour bottles in good condition, and this one which I still really like the idea of using in a lighthouse, stormy seas, ship on the rock diorama one day in the future. It's currently beyond my skill level with epoxy resin, as well as being quite an expensive project to do it the way I'd want to do it. Even on a cloudy day, this cheap plastic thing channels light and shines brightly. It was once used in a lamp, and that is what I can imagine using it for again, in a strange and possibly a bit stupid lamp project idea I have. Some copper, some brass rounds out the finds, none of it particularly interesting, but I guess I might check out the fork to make sure it's cupro nickel as suspected and not pure copper. That's the finds, and now the thanks. A big thank you to the kind people who have donated through Ko-fi. The difference it makes to me is immeasurable. A huge thank you to the 2 kind people who wish to remain anonymous, who from my Amazon wish list kindly chose to gift me and my girlfriend with this. It is going to be a lot of fun using this, granting access to some hard to reach places, opening up filming opportunities, and being very good upper body exercise. Thank you so much, anonymous people. It is a wonderful gift. Finally, my usual big thank you to everyone who has liked, disliked, commented on, shared my videos. It all helps my channel to grow. I do hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, and if you'd like to, then any show of appreciation is very much appreciated. I hope you're all keeping safe and well, looking after yourself and loved ones as best you can. Thank you all very much for watching, and for now, goodbye.